love to pay out on the ABC on the regular, you know, for their inherent bias, their diving ratings due to being so out of touch with the average Australian, and they're just casually framing our soldiers for war crimes they didn't commit by adding in audio of gunshots that didn't happen, you know, the usual stuff. But we rarely talk about the other national broadcaster, the SBS, which is also funded by the taxpayer by the tune of $1.8 billion for 5 years, starting last year. It's still a lot of money. But this was brought to our attention this week by a guy called Peter, who called into 2GB to talk about the fact that SBS do their weather report using Indigenous language. Check out this graphic. It's confusing for the best of us. Certainly me. I wouldn't have a clue where's where looking at that map, which is the point that he raised. We are an English-speaking country. We do all speak English here, and that is hard to follow for the vast majority of us. And so Ben Fordham then got on the line to Warren Mundine, our resident Indigenous expert here at Sky News, and asked him, what do you make of this, mate?
I like having Aboriginal names. I like it Wollongong and so on and that, and Wagga Wagga and things. But look, it starts getting a bit crazy and goes overboard, and this is when it starts upsetting people. Brisbane is Brisbane, Darwin is Darwin, and Wagga Wagga is Wagga Wagga, and Dubbo is Dubbo.
We know already that out of the 4 million place names across Australia, about 75% of them are from Indigenous names, whether it's Wagga Wagga or Ballarat or Barangaroo or Bennelong or Cronulla or Coogee. So the dual names just doesn't make sense to me.
75% out of 4 million place names in Australia are already Indigenous, Kel. How many more do we need?
Exactly, and Ben knew that because I told him on an earlier broadcast. He rang me up and they tried to change the name of Cooks River to Gulayi. On the claim that that was the local Indigenous name. And so we had a chat about this, and I said there are already 3 million Indigenous names on the map. So you don't need any more. In other words, what they're doing is not adding extra Indigenous names. They're trying to get rid of English names. It's an entirely negative process.
Yeah, well, that's what we see in this graphic. They're just completely
replaced. What SBS is doing is breaking all the rules. Every state has got a geographical names board, and they get together and they've all got the same sort of rules. One of the rules that the geographical names boards of the states have is you can add names, you can create what is called double naming, but you can only do that with physical objects, a mountain, a river, perhaps an island, not a populated area where people live. So trying to rename Brisbane, Melbourne and Sydney is simply wrong. It breaks all those rules. The second thing is they don't replace the names, they give them double names. So in fact, Uluru is actually called legally Uluru/Ayers Rock, which is why the airport is still called Ayers Rock Airport and why the resort is still called Ayers Rock Resort, because the real name of the place is Uluru Ayers Rock. Now, those are the rules. You can dual name some things, but only physical objects. And this idea that they can rename entire cities is simply against the rules. It's against the law. So some half-wit, and I'm possibly overestimating the fraction in saying that, some half-wit at SBS doesn't know what the rules are. They don't know how it all came. It's just absolute nonsense. I've started a small organisation called SOP, pronounced SOAP, Save Our Place Names. Would you like to support it? All you need to do is be critical every time this rubbish comes up. Go to my website, ozwords.com.au, ozwords.com.au, go to the feedback page and send me a note saying, Kel, I'm on side with SOAP. I want to save our place names.
Well, we've got to save the 25% that we have left. But, Joe, what is this really achieving? 4% of the population is Indigenous. How many of them are watching the SBS? Or are they simply trying to massage in Indigenous dialect into the English-speaking nation?
Well, I'm furious about this. In fact, I've started my own support group like Kel, which is God, I'm Majorly Peeved, or GIMP. And if you'd like to go to our website, don't Google it, by the way. Just don't Google it.
Oh, my goodness.
I was born and...
Definitely do not Google
Born and raised in an Aboriginal place name, Dandenong, which is the local Aboriginal dialect for home of the handsome journalists.
Right.
And I do not say... I love the fact that all our place names are a sort of pastiche of all these different cultures. I mean, our tallest mountain is Mount Kosciuszko, named after some Polish dude. I bet that, the people that the cities that Canberra is, of course, an Aboriginal name, so our capital city is named after it. So it's weird that they've changed the name of the
even Canberra doesn't get to remain Canberra.
To another Aboriginal name.
What they've done is what they put on their map was the name of the tribe, which is Ngambri, and Ngambri was anglicised to become Canberra. But, you don't need to change it back to the un-anglicised version. Once a place is known and established, you don't fiddle with it. I don't know what SBS is trying to achieve except to seem as though we're more sensitive than
I don't think they're going far enough.
Received, SBS.
No, if they want to be truly committed, do the entire bulletin in Indigenous language.
But there's so many different dialects.
Oh, that's right. Which is why there are all these different. Like there's been this like Hunger Games death match in each of these place names because, of course, most of the places like Sydney, which I thought was part of the Ayers Nation, but anyway, what would I know? Is called Warang, and there's in fact a whole bunch of different tribes, different people who all live in the Sydney Basin.
Let me give you a number.
So they have to pick up.
It's like Survivor.
There is another name, and there's some people who will say Sydney should be called Eora, not Warang. But nationally, there were when settlers arrived and brought the place into the modern world in 1788, there were at least 200 Indigenous languages, possibly more than 200. So that it's not like New Zealand, where Maori is a language that covers most of the place. It's not like that. There isn't one Indigenous language, so it's impossible to start playing these games.
No, I think that if they're truly committed to Indigenous culture and indigeneity, they should do the entire news bulletin in all 200 Indigenous languages.
Not even
I do not care how long it takes.
You've
got to commit. You've got to commit. You can't just be a little bit anti-racist. Come on, there's still a lot of colonialism in that bulletin, and we need to decolonise it. Decolonise it now.
I'm just still not over that 75%. I'm like, how great are we? Next time a name change issue comes up, I'm just going to be like, look, we've done 75% out of 4 million name places. I think we're good.